The story does lift up here from here. Take a deep breath. I look at the judge and I say, I really believe this works. I've been doing this since I actually came to the tournament early, and I spoke with some of the judges and made sure that it worked, just in case something like this might happen. You know, my team and we worked on this deck. I researched this deck. I wouldn't try to cast a bust off of her brain if I didn't know that it worked properly. With all due respect, I basically said something just like that. And he wasn't having it. He was like, oh, well, you know, this does not work. And I don't know who it is. I don't know which judge it was. I tried to ask if it was Vince. He didn't say if it was him. But one of the other judges, one of the lower level judges, actually tapped him on the shoulder or something. I don't know. I looked away at this point. I don't know who told him. But one of the other judges let him know that it worked. Somebody was looking out for me that day. And it might have been you, Vince. I don't know if it was you. I think I'd love to give credit to you, Vince, because I knew Vince knew how the brain worked. But somebody else must have told him that it works, because he totally changed his attitude. He came back to the table after talking with a couple people. He came back to the table and he said, actually, it works. I'm going to give you guys a 5-minute time extension, and you can keep playing. And I take the game after the bust Armageddon against this guy. He just never draws enough land, and I get the Snapcaster beat down, burn going, and I have answers for everything that he does actually finally draw some lands, but I'm ready at this point. I have some counter magic to stop him. It felt great. It felt great. That was maybe one of my favorite wins of the tournament. Not because I proved him wrong, that Tron player, not because I proved some judges wrong. No, judges are great people. They're really trying to help the game, you know, run smoothly. That was maybe triumph because somebody helped me. Somebody was looking out for me that day, and that was a great feeling that somebody cared. I don't know who it was, but there was some judge told the head judge that Brain in a Jar works with Boom Bust. Saved my butt. So game 3, we're not out of the woods just yet against this Tron player. So he starts sideboarding. He's just mad. He's like, ugh. You know, like, because he didn't get his way or whatever. I don't know. So we're sideboarding up, and I can understand that he didn't get his way. So here's what I did. These came out. He's ready for this time. My Tron opponent, he's ready for these. So what I did, I think I just brought in some more burn. I think I brought in the other 2 bolts. I left in the boom busts. These came out because the brains did. And then I brought in every single burn spell I have access to, I think is what I just did. Something simple. Yep. So we have every burn spell that I have access to now in the deck. And then these boom busts come down. They're actually just going to be here because I'm not doing Brain in a Jar Beck. He's ready for it. And we talked after the match, and he was like, yeah, I brought in like a bunch of like artifact tape, but you never saw your brain. I was like, and I told him the truth. I said, no, actually I sided it out because, you know, you were ready for it. This third match did not come down to this card. This third match, gentlemen and ladies and gents, came down to this. I'm going to tell you a beautiful story. So way back when I used to play Blue White Red, back like years ago, I used to, and I had a buddy who used to run one of Commandeer in the sideboard. And this is kind of a knock to that. I like it in a sideboard. I think it's only ever going to be a sideboard card in Modern if it's ever going to see any play at all. What's funny is after this third match against Tron, somebody told me that a bunch of the players who were spectating our match went to the vendors and bought all the Commandeers. So let me tell you what happened. This is great. My Tron player, I'm kind of stumbling. I'm not really... I'm either not making all the land drops I need to, or I'm not seeing the cards I need to. I'm kind of stumbling. My Tron opponent assembles his pieces of Tron, and he goes to slam a Karn. And he goes to slam this Karn, and he's like, you know, you got nothing. You know, I think I'd like... I don't know. I may have been able to counter it. I can't recall if I think I maybe had the muddle instead of like a knot or a remand. Anyway, so he slams Karn. And I just start smiling. Because the previous turn that he slammed the Karn, I had top decked the Commandeer. This is something I've always wanted to do. And I don't think I've ever actually done it during my paper magic career. I actually think this is my first time doing it. I commandeered his Karn. I exiled like a command and like maybe like a Jace or something I didn't need, or maybe a Snapcaster or Electrolyze. So I commandeer his Karn, pitching like I knew it was a cryptic and something else. I remember what the other blue card was. So people start turning, like, this is great. Okay, so I have a Karn on the table, and people are, like, passing by. I like the song. Hang on. People are, like, passing by the table and like, whoa, why does this blue-white red player have a Karn on the table? What the hell is going on? And there was already a judge at the table, and like my Tron opponent again was trying to be like, no, he can't do that, can he? Like Commandeer only takes, and like the judge was like, yes, 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 he can take your Karn. Please, can you keep playing? It was hilarious. The way that the judge just told the Tron player, yes, he can do this. Keep playing Magic, please. It was great. Like my attitude wasn't sour at this point. The judge's attitude was sour with the Tron player. It was hilarious. He was like, yes, please, just get on with it. And so my next turn, okay, so the Tron player's just like, oh shit, he didn't say that, but he's like, crap. Pass the turn to me, and I immediately exile the Tron piece that he'd searched up to cast the Karn in the first place. Next turn, I'm trying to assemble some counter magic. I plus the Karn. He has like an Ugin at this point, I think. Because I know he exiled one, so I'm assuming he has double Ugin, or Ulamog. I think it was an Ulamog he exiled. I minus the Karn again, take another piece of Tron, and I'm ready. I think he cast a Worm Coil, I remand it, and then I minus the Karn again, so I plus, minus, and then he's just like, alright, I've had enough, I'm done. That was probably my favorite moment in the GP, not because I beat an opponent with a sour attitude. I showed people there something that day. I showed people something. You can have an opponent that just has a garbage attitude, that's just trying to get you in trouble with the law, basically, that's just trying to ruin your time. Don't let it ruin your experience. And after the match, he and I became fast friends. He was like, dude, Commandeer, that was really cool. I was like, oh yeah, I had a buddy who used to, and I looked at him, and I wrote about it in the article. I actually was the first to apologize. Yeah, yes, you can bust here. Please keep playing, yeah. Yeah, after the match, opponent spoke excitedly with me. He said he really liked the deck and that the match was hard fought. And I lightened up. And I actually offered an apology. I said, because I was upset. I didn't vocalize it, but I was like, less. You guys know when I'm in a good mood, I'm all like, let's do this, boys and girls. But I was a little silent with that opponent, and I said, I'm sorry. I said something like, I may have been a little upset with you the way you said before the judge came. But I can understand, maybe you wanted him to explain the interaction instead of me. So I did apologize. He never apologized to me. Did I think that he needed to? No. No, and I don't think that he would. I don't think he realized that he kind of was very rude about that whole thing. But that's fine. That's perfectly fine. We won the match, so I guess that's what matters, right? Okay, so a few matches later, I'm getting some momentum. Few, if any, losses are occurring at this point. I'm really just jiving. I'm in the pocket. I'm in the zone. And I sat across from an older gentleman, perhaps, again, one of my only other few opponents who would believe me when I went for the Brain in a Jar interactions. Game 1, after a sea of birds and cards, I took the first game against, it was some sort of Bant Eldrazi big stuff, which is cool. Now, Game 2, he was really gunning for my artifacts, and Game 2, I actually, again, had taken out the Brain in a Jar entirely. I don't remember if I left these in. I think I did for Eldrazi Temple. We kind of looked like this against him. No Helix. This came in. Less Helix. No Negate. Anger came in. He actually had some smaller Eldrazi. I'm just trying to remember how I sideboarded. No Commandeer. Anger. Something like this was my configuration against this Eldrazi player. And so, okay, just so you guys can look at the list as I talk about the story. So he was actually a really kind guy. He was fine. He didn't judge call me, which is fine. I mean, they're welcome to do so. I'm just saying I was impressed that there were some players at the tournament that actually understood the interaction or believed me when I explained it. But in a nutshell, Game 2 I won because he just had like a bunch of deck cards, like Stony Silence was great. These weren't in the deck at that point. And Game 3, I ran a similar configuration for Game 3. We kind of have a grindy match. I'm able to answer some of his threats, some I don't. And I'm taking some damage. I top deck a Tamio, and I shut down the threat, the remaining threat that he had at that point. And I just keep plussing her. And I just keep plussing her, and I keep plussing her. And you know what's funny? Is I know she's a 5-mana walker, but she's actually very powerful. My buddy Marcus let me borrow a Tamio for the tournament when we decided we didn't really want to go into the Nahiri Emrakul package. This walker, if it's a grind, this walker is absurd. I actually grabbed one on Magic Online immediately earlier this evening before, obviously because I wanted to show you guys the 75 I was going to play at the tournament, but holy crap. She's like 6 tickets. This card is great. I plussed her all the way to ultimate. What did I do? Hang on. Yeah, so I plussed her all the way to ultimate, and I fired a flurry of lightning bolts upstairs, and then I remanded any relevant spells he played for the rest of the game. A few turns at this, and he died to the inevitability that is her emblem. Tamio emblem is very strong, apparently. I wasn't running her for her emblem. I was running her to try to make the Nahiri and our sideboard a little bit better. These two get along great. I had a couple grindy games where this came out. So, okay, if you have a Nahiri plus... Well, okay, in fairness, if you have two Planeswalkers on the battlefield, you're doing great. So Nahiri can only exile tapped artifacts or tapped creatures. What does Tamio do? Tap target permanent. So these girls get along great. Jace was good for either of them. Nahiri and Tamio are both very good at handling big threats. Jace is good at handling some of the Lingering Souls decks of the format, decks that go wide, like maybe like even elves. Yeah, so like these girls handle the big stuff. Jace handles the small stuff. The decks that were going wide. Excuse me. Yeah, it was indeed, Terran. It was indeed strong. So let's go back to the main deck configuration. That was great. So those are the two things I wanted to do with the deck. I wanted to ultimate a Planeswalker. It didn't matter if it was Jace, Tamio, or Nahiri. I wanted to ultimate... So I had a bit of a check... I like had a little bit of list, a mental checklist of things I wanted to do with the deck. I wanted to get a deck tech... I wanted to go day 2 and get a deck tech. That was the reason we were there. Damn, hang on. I'm a little sick, I think. So that was the reason we took the deck to the tournament. I wanted to try to get a deck tech with it, and I wanted to try to day 2. So those are the 2 check marks that we got. The other check marks were commandeering a Planeswalker. I did the best one. We commandeered the card. That's a check mark. And then just overall, just playing the brain deck in general. But mostly the Planeswalker Ultimate of the Tamio in this case. The commandeer on a relevant Planeswalker, which in this case was Karn. Getting a deck tech, we'll talk about that. It wasn't exactly a deck tech, it was something else, but maybe better. And day 2ing with the deck. I mean, obviously prizing would be something to add to that list if I did. I actually didn't, but that's okay. Also I went just to have a blast, and I had a fun time despite maybe some of the sour things that happened that I told you about a second ago. I had a blast meeting you guys. I had a blast seeing all the people like cosplaying and all the people like, the hustle and bustle of the trading and the buying, and it was just a fun time. And I had a really fun time with the guys that I went with to the tournament. So thank you. Again, if you guys are just tuning in, the people that took me to the tournament that I drove with, you guys are awesome. Thank you to everybody that helped pay for the tournament, whether you donated here or just you watch my show. All of it helps me get to go to paper events just like this that I'm talking about. Anyway, so the deck was really powerful. I did a lot better than a lot of the Jeskai Nahiri decks. People were telling me by day 2 a lot of them were weeded out, apparently, which was kind of cool to hear. And they're like, whoa, there's still somebody playing Blue-White Red? Well, he's got to be playing Nahiri, and I wasn't. Like, people were kind of started, not crowding the tables, but people were like, wow, there's a Blue-White Red player that made day 2. And they're like, how'd he do it? And then people started, like, asking about Brain in a Jar. They were asking me if they should buy Brain in a Jar. I said, yeah, like, worst case scenario, this card's going to go in, like, commander decks. It doesn't have to be, like, a modern mainstay, and I don't think that it will be. I think if it turns into a mainstay, I think that either this will not work with this, or this will not work with this. Because really the only things that stop this efficiently game 1 are hand hate, abrupt decay, or Kolaghan's command, and you can counter the Kolaghan's command and you can counter the hand hate. Really the only thing that does a good job shutting off the Brain main deck was abrupt decay, and all the Kolaghan's commands decks that I found were either Mardu or I think there was one Grixis player. I didn't face much Jund at all, actually. Somebody told me there were a lot of copies of Jund, but they were only doing so well day 2 apparently. So I actually didn't run into very much Jund at all, which is great, because I think Jund would be hard for us game 1 because I wouldn't say we rely on the Brain, but like it is probably the most powerful thing I'm doing in the main deck. So that was good that I kind of dodged it. No, I didn't get to kill a Thrun with the ends, and no, I didn't get to beat up on Bogles with the ends. I did use odds several times to good effect. And I did 2-for-1 several creature decks. I think I ends the Eldrazi player I talked about briefly earlier. So you can get 2-for-1s with this card. It's actually pretty sweet. in Blue at Red. I think even if I wasn't running Brain, I'd consider a copy of this because it can win Counter Wars. It doesn't matter whether you win the coin flip or not in Counter War against things like